Business sales. Hi, I'm Joe Danini. I'm a business attorney who's going to talk to you today about selling your business. Let's just say that you've worked very hard to create an internet-based apparel company. So you're designing and selling all kinds of clothing on the internet. You've achieved some success with this, and now an opportunity comes about where you could sell it. So, how do you do that? Well, basically, legally, you have two options. One is you can have what's called a stock purchase if you are a corporation, or a unit purchase if you're a limited liability company. Those would be one option. The second option would be you have an asset sale, whereby you still are keeping ownership of your company, but you're selling out all the assets. Depending on the transaction, either one is viable, but commonly more people use the asset purchase because typically a buyer doesn't want to jump into the liabilities of the company. They just want certain assets. They may want your goodwill, your brand name, your inventory, your equipment, etc. So, how do you go about doing this in a way that can achieve your goals to sell your business for the maximum value? If you're going to be going through an asset purchase, and we'll assume your apparel buyer wants to do it that way. If you're going to go through an asset purchase, one, you're going to address issues such as real estate. Do you have a physical place that you own or lease? If so, you might have to get consent of the landlord. You might want to become the landlord if you own the building and rent it to the new buyer. Two, once you get past leasing issues, you might want to get through your financing issues. Is your buyer going to be paying cash? What method are they going to be using? Are you carrying on terms? You're going to have to work out some of the financial details. You're also going to want, as a buyer, is going to want to make sure that any equipment you might have, if you were designing or you were manufacturing any of the clothing that you're selling, that nobody else can come knock on the door someday and say, sorry, but this equipment is mine because the former owner never paid me on it. So there's situations and fancy words in California called bulk sales that protect a buyer and make sure that the equipment are free from creditors. Next, you're going to want to look at employees. While technically you're not buying the employees, they may need to stop working legally for your company and the next day start working technically for the new company so that there's no interruption for the employee. You're going to want to make sure you and the potential buyer work these issues out and match up the liabilities with payroll and taxes and have that all worked out so you can have a seamless transition for the employee's sake and for your business sake. Next, if there's any regulatory issues, there's any licenses, business licenses, any licenses unique to your industry, you need to make sure those are transferred and they're in the right name so the business can operate properly without interruption. And finally, if there's any intellectual property, such as the trademarks or copyrights to designs you have, you want to make sure that those are clearly addressed if they're being purchased as part of your assets, or if you're going to license the rights to those, or if they're not involved at all. But either way, they just all need to be addressed effectively so that you can make sure that your sale happens exactly the way that both you and your buyer intend. Because if you properly structure your sale, and hopefully properly structure it that you maximize enough value in terms of the money you'll receive, you can move on to the next company, or maybe it's time for you to take that vacation of your choice. Either way, I'm Joe Danini, and thanks for listening.